Credit King. Hi, Will.
Hey, how you doing?
Fine. Will be so cool, y'all. So don't mind how much I'm going to entertain myself talking to him, because he's going to be so calm and cool, and I'm going to be so absolutely ridiculous. Just go along with it. So we're going to do some introductions first. Oh, hey, Jalix. Thank you. So I am Connie S. Falls and the S is for Systems. For the last 13 years, I've been helping entrepreneurs create wonderful businesses for themselves by helping them create the operational side of their business. That's policies, processes, procedures, all of the foundational pieces that you're going to need in order to establish, scale, and grow your business. I decided to create Business and BS podcast as a way to share my wonderful, wonderful friendship portfolio of dope people that I know that are doing amazing things out here in our community. Today with Business and BS, and again, the BS could stand for business strategies, and sometimes it just stands for the regular BS that comes along with running a business. And today I have an amazing guest who's my friend, a client who's an amazing soul, and is really literally changing the lives of people out here, all based in credit and real estate and entrepreneurship. Mr. Will Roundtree. I'm doing awesome. So first, if you would please give an introduction, tell the people who you are.
Yeah, so for those who don't know me, my name is Will Roundtree. Live in Las Vegas, Nevada. Been out here 15 years. All around entrepreneur. Moved to Las Vegas to be an entrepreneur. Failed miserably, but just, decided to keep going. And so I do have I'm a president and founder of We Management Services, which we're more like a credit education company. Really don't like credit repair, because I think our main focus has always been the education. The repair is just a byproduct of the actual services. Like Connie said, real estate investor, business coach, 2-time author. The first book, Credit is King. Second book, Full-Time CEO, the shit they don't tell you. And teacher, educator. I mean, I just love entrepreneurship. I love business. I love what it stands for, and I love how it literally can change someone's lives.
So I want to do some housekeeping before we get started, because I know everybody's going to have 1,000 questions for you when it comes to their credit. If you have questions, do not put them into the comments. Put them into little question mark boxes at the bottom. That way we can look at those questions. We can go through them one by one, because otherwise, as you see, these comments are going really, really quickly, and we'll lose your questions. And then you'll be trying to DM me, talking about, but you didn't get my question answered. Well, you didn't put it in the chat box. So we're going to go ahead and get started. Will, the way I like to start is from the beginning. Most people have a story that kind of brings them to the journey of where they are now. So tell us how you grew up.
How far you want me to go back?
I want you to go back, way back.
All right, so I'm originally from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Grew up in Milwaukee. Anybody who's familiar with Milwaukee, it was a rough city to grow up in, but the thing that I loved about it, I feel that it's what gave me my grit. It's what gave me my character, because, I had to grow up fast. It was a tough city. I grew up around, at the height of gangs, the height of violence, the crack epidemic. And I lived in Milwaukee up until my freshman year of high school. And then as things got rougher in the city of Milwaukee, my parents actually sent me to Mississippi, where I graduated high school. And it was probably one of the most rural parts of Mississippi. Lived on a farm with my grandparents with over 120 acres. So imagine moving from the city, where it's the hustle and bustle, and then you move on a farm over 120 acres where it's only 3 houses. Didn't have television, no heat or air conditioning. My grandparents just had a fireplace. And so I say that story because I think that's really where I got my work ethic, because at the age of 12, 13, even though, I'm going to school, I'm working with my grandfather every single day, who was a carpenter, and he was an entrepreneur as well. And so, I had to chop wood if we want to keep the house warm. I had to, go to the garden and help, like all of the things that you can even imagine working on a farm. And so I lived out there for 3 years, graduated high school. In the day of my graduation, which was in 1997, so I'm dating myself a little bit, Moved back to Milwaukee because I was like, I can't stay here forever. It was no knock to it, but I'm a city dude. Like, I like the sereneness of the South, but I was a city guy. So moved back to Milwaukee. Really didn't know what I wanted to do. You know, I was a straight A student in school. School was boring to me though. So that was not necessarily my narrative and my traditional route. I did decide to go to school. I initially went for computer science or something like that. I think I just picked something in computers because it was supposedly hot at that time. And I remember being in my economics class one day, and I asked my teacher, could he teach me to become wealthy? He said no, so I quit college, never went back. Was fortunate enough to only have $5,000 in student loan debt, which eventually I didn't pay, and they garnished some of my paychecks over the years to get the money back. But so then in 2003, up until 2003, I was working for a company, thought I was going to retire from there. You know, you're 19, 20 years old, making good money. You know, you think you got life figured out. And then one day went to the office or the company I was working for, and there was chains on the door. And I didn't know what I was going to do. Didn't have a backup plan, didn't have no money in savings. And so at that point, I actually was introduced to entrepreneurship by the way of network marketing. And I always say that statistically, most people make no money in network marketing. But the thing that I took from it was the personal development, which I always say is what saved my life. It changed my mindset, and it really helped develop who I am today. And so from that, because, you know, I was actually one of the top recruiters in that organization, even though I didn't make any money. My upline or mentor at the time was like, Will, you ever consider moving to Vegas? We're building an organization out there. And so, you know, I was single, no kids at the time. And I was like, all right, yeah, definitely. So went out there to visit in September of 2005, went back to Milwaukee, sold everything, and I left October 5th. So, I mean, I made the decision just like that. Moved to Las Vegas, 2005, quickly found out that you need credit just to breathe. It's like I couldn't get an apartment. I couldn't buy a car. I mean, I literally moved to Las Vegas. I didn't know anybody. And I had borrowed $500, you know, from my mentor at the time, just to kind of get me going. And I mean, all I had was a garbage bag full of clothes. And I mean, I just figured it out. You know, I never called back asking, you know, my family or fans for anything. I wasn't like, oh, why me? I was literally on some, look, I'm going to get rich or die trying. Like, that was my mentality. And I always say that I don't believe in you know, luck or coincidence. I believe things happen for a reason. I was supposed to lose my job in 2003. I was supposed to join entrepreneurship. I was supposed to make it to Vegas. I was supposed to be homeless. Like, all of those things is what defined my character. I was supposed to move to Mississippi. That's what helped develop my work ethic. And so all of those things are just culminations of the ingredients of what I'm made of today. And I'm always constantly learning, always constantly pulling from experiences. And so, yeah, I mean, I guess that's the Cliff Notes version. I have a lot more, but, you know, I know we want to save some time for some.
All right, no, and I'm gonna get into it, and so we're gonna kind of talk through this story. So I think work ethic is something that we really take for granted, right? So people feel like, oh, I know how to work. You know, I've always had a job. I know how to work. That's just what you do. You know, out the womb, you working, right? But you developed a strong work ethic working on a farm. Let me find out.
Oh yeah, I did it all. I didn't milk no cows though. I didn't do that part.
So, but that mindset, because do you feel like the discipline and work ethic is something that you're born with it, or is it something that you're trained to do?
I definitely feel you can develop into that. I do believe that we are inherently born with things that are just within our DNA. But I really do believe you can cultivate yourself into that, because it really is just a daily practice. You know, like I always say that, you know, anybody who, if you would have met me 5-10 years ago, I mean, one would consider me shy. I'm a very introverted person. But when it comes to business, like, I had to develop who I am. I mean, you couldn't have got me to speak in front of one person 5 years ago. But, you know, now it's like a rush for me to be able to go out there, share my story, and talk about, you know, what it is that I know that's changed my life and helped so many others. And so I do believe you can develop that trait and that skill, but it is going to take some work. You know, you can't invest in the business and think you're going to become wealthy or become this mogul overnight. You know, I always often say, you know, I equate everything to our physical health goals. You can't, you know, eat crappy food for 40 years, go to the gym 1 week and think, you know, you're going to have abs. It's going to,
Yeah, I found that out.
you have to, it's a lifestyle really. And so I really do believe that one can develop into a leader. One can develop into having that work ethic, having that level of ambition. But I mean, it's that's the hardest part. The work is easy, but the hardest part is staying consistent. And that's one of the things that I think a lot of us have a hard time doing because there's so many distractions. And a distraction can be a family member. A distraction can be, you know, your job. A distraction can be, you know, what's on television. And I often tell people, you know, I went 5 years without watching television. And I did that to eliminate distractions because I didn't want anything to emotionally affect what my path and journey was. Plus, I couldn't afford it back then either. I didn't have it.
He's like, and also didn't
Yeah, I
have.
couldn't afford it either. So,
And while we're on this subject, because I'm gonna go back again, but while we're on this, there are so many people that are introverts that want to be entrepreneurs, that want to have a business, but when they look and they see dope people like you going live, they see us having these conversations, and they're like, I don't want to do that. And they may look at you and say, man, he's on live, he's on YouTube, he's doing all these great things. I can't do that. What is your advice for them, for your introverts like yourself?
I often tell people, like, you just want to be who you are. You know, I can remember when I first was kind of getting into the realm of speaking in front of people, and individuals were trying to say, hey, you should do it like this, you should do it like that. And I'm like, no, I'm going to do it my way. And, you know, when I speak, I often say, because I want people to know that you can be human and be in front of people. I often say, look, I mispronounce words all the time and I don't know how to spell. But would you rather say I am rich or I is a millionaire? You know what I'm saying? You don't have
I love that.
You don't have to be perfect. And I share my vulnerabilities. I tell people, you know, if I mess up, and that's really the thing. And I think when you're yourself, that's what resonates with people, because now, like you said, that other person who's on the other end who may be that introvert say, if he can do it, I know I can do it. And that's really one of the things that I try to focus on, is just inspiring at a high level without telling people, hey, I'm here to inspire you. My goal is really just to share really what it boils down to, because I often say facts tell, stories sell. And I really sell myself and my services through my stories, through other people's stories. Like, I'm not here and say, hey, we have the best credit repair for $99. Like, that doesn't move people. But if I tell people, hey, let me tell you what this has done for me, and just sharing my story, just being authentic with that at all times.
Can someone put that in the comments for me? Facts tell, stories sell. Come through with the gems already early. We just got on the call, Will. Don't go in too far, okay? Just got to pace ourselves here.
Absolutely.
So let's talk about this journey. So if you're like, yo, hey teacher, teach me how to be wealthy, and they can't do it. Tell me what triggered in your mind hearing that. What did that mean to you at that moment?
Well, so kind of going back to my early childhood, growing up in Milwaukee, I seen the D boys, I seen the pimps, I saw the, you know what I'm saying, that lifestyle. And it wasn't necessarily that I wanted the lifestyle, I just wanted the freedom that came with that. I knew they didn't have to work for nobody. I knew they got to, if they want to drive whatever vehicle they want to drive, you know. And so my thing is that I wanted the freedom. And to me, that's what the success was, you know. And so it wasn't that I was necessarily chasing. And when I say teaching me how to be wealthy, where I am in my journey right now, the wealth is up here. I'm never talking about monetary. And so just me knowing what I felt I deserved, because really what got me to that point, I remember going to this event one time, and one of my mentor, I call everybody my mentor. Even if I went to your workshop, if I got something out of that, you're my mentor now. And so I remember going to this event, and he was like, okay, guys, I have this exercise. And it's actually something I do in any of my events that I speak at. And he said, all right, I want everybody to write down how much you make per year, per month, per hour, whatever. So I wrote it down. He said, draw a line under that and write down how much you feel you're worth. That blew me away because I'm like, okay, I'm thinking $15 an hour is a lot of money, but I'm worth more than that. Who's going to tell me I'm only worth $15? And so I noticed that I was capped and I would never be able to make more than that unless I go get another job. And I didn't want to do that. And so something just triggered in my mind. And then also, I remember hearing a quote by the great Jim Rohn, who's probably the GOAT of all GOATs. He said, profits are better than wages. You know, if I have 2 bikes, I'm going to have one to ride and one to rent. That's why, you know, I buy multiple vehicles so I can drive them and rent them out and they pay for themselves. And so I'm always my mind is always working in numbers and how can I profit? And so learning all of those things prior to, like I say, being in school, I told myself that's not the route I want to take. Who's going to tell me my narrative is I have to go to school, get good grades, and get the white picket fence with 2 points like that? I was not sold on that narrative. And so all of those things were just a culmination. But like I mentioned, I think my life journey up until that point, you know, is what got me to thinking that way. And that's why I tell people relish in every single experience, whether good or bad, you know, and you have to put yourself out there to even gain the experiences. See, a lot of us don't get to have that aha moment because we don't do enough to gain the experience. You know, you'll never know how to ride a bike unless you fall off. So you almost have to expect yourself to fall. Same thing in business. A lot of people will get in business and we're so careful, so then we never gain any experiences to learn from to get to that next level. So I went into business knowing, okay, I know it's not going to be a straight line. I know it's going to be some ups and downs. I know it's going to be some hurdles, but the more I engulf myself in activity, I'll get those experiences. So now I learn what not to do and focus on just, you know, continually moving forward.
That is awesome. And now if I already know, I'm looking at a teacher and you can't teach me these things that I know are possible and I'm not worth $15 an hour, in your mind on that day and that moment where you were like, nah, I'm not, college is whack.
Oh, I never went back.
Like after that day?
Literally, I did not go back to class.
Were they like, Will, Roundtree?
They probably didn't notice me. I was so quiet in there. They probably didn't know I was even in class. I'm not sure because I didn't, you know. So.
And I think that brings us to when you're looking for a business coach, when you're looking at a mentor, when you're looking at somebody that motivates you, how important is it that they've seen what you're looking to do?
I mean, I think it's very important. You know, one thing I tell people, and to get to your point, I want to set the preference of it. I think one of the reasons a lot of people get confused in business is because we're trying to pull information from 50 different people. And you're going to get 50 different experiences, 50 different styles, 50 different, you know, narratives. And I always say you got to find somebody who's going to resonate with you. And you're just going to have to trust and pull and extract the information that is going to be the most beneficial that they're sharing with you. Because I think that, like, now, there are some mentors that I've had. I don't agree with every single thing they say. And it doesn't make them a scam artist because I don't agree with everything. I mean, I pull things from everybody, but I do follow particular individuals because, one, their style may be more adapted to me. Two, they may look like me. Three, you know, their story resonates with me. Four, I'm like, if they can do it, I know I can. And so finding just someone who can resonate with you is really what I've always looked for. I mean, I have people who may not necessarily have platforms that I admire just because I admire their toughness, their grit, their will to not give up, which is another hard one. You know, we'll go out here and get one no from a family member who's the brokest person in our family and we'll quit. And so, like, it's just so many different layers. And that's why I talk about in my book, the shit they don't tell you. Like, I tell everybody this. Business is hard, but it's not the actual process of the business. You just got to stay consistent long enough. But what's hard is the mental part of it. And that's because we've been so accustomed to trading time for dollars. Going back to the $15 an hour, somebody tell you you're worth $15 an hour, that sounds good to you because you're used to trading time for dollars. Whereas as an entrepreneur, you really don't make money for at least 10,000 hours. And so when you know that, you have to understand, man, I just got to keep putting in the work. You know what I'm saying? But to go back to your question, because, you know, I could go on forever, is just that I look for someone that I can relate to. And they don't have to necessarily have the biggest following. Like, I don't believe in any of that. I just look for someone who can relate to me, or that I can relate to.
So when you look around the room, because my friends and I, we talk about a friendship portfolio. And I think it's so important to evaluate the people that are around you, that you talk to consistently. And I am very, very blessed, just like you are, to be able to have a great portfolio of people. If I have a question about entrepreneurship, if I want to talk about branding, if I want to talk about credit, I can get on the phone with whoever people may think is, you know, is cool or an influencer in that space. But everybody doesn't have that kind of access. What are some tips that you can give people to, one, evaluate their friendship portfolio, and then start adding other dope people like yourself?
First of all, thank you for that compliment, and, you know, right back to you. I always say, well, first of all, relationships probably ranks just as high as the work ethic. And you can't develop the relationship without working on self. And what I mean by that is that I had to take an inventory of who was in my circle at the time, you know, and, you know, this were the saying, birds of a feather flock together. And I remember hearing, if you hang with 5 broke people, eventually you're going to be the 6th. And I looked around back in that time. And when I say broke, I'm never like trying to disrespect anybody. It's more broke mentality, because we all have the ability to go and get money. And so I looked around and saw everybody in my circle wasn't helping to push me. They were not appreciating me. And when I say appreciate, I talk about adding value. And so I told myself, you know what? I can only change my circle if I change my mindset. So I started changing my mindset, started hanging around different crowds of people, and really just started networking and getting uncomfortable, introducing myself, reaching out to people, and going to events. I remember I used to go to events by myself. You know, I had one suit and I just switched my shirt, so they thought I had different outfits. And I would just go to these events and hand out cards, get phone numbers. And it was brutally uncomfortable for me because that was not my natural element. But I knew that I was forcing myself mentally because I knew where I was trying to go. You know, going back to my physical example, working out is very hard. But once you get past that stage of the stiffness, the soreness, the hurt, now it becomes easy. It's on autopilot. So same thing when I was building those relationships, because everything in business is about relationships. Clients do business with you because they know, like, and trust you. That's a relationship. Your vendors, anybody you're dealing with, if you have a bank, you're trying to get capital from a bank, those are relationships. I can pick up the phone and call one of my underwriters and, hey, I need an X amount of line of money for a line of credit. I have this project. He's going to go out of his way, or she's going to go out of their way to make that happen because I've established that relationship with them. You know, I have a bank now who I'm not even in their footprint. But because of the relationship, he said, Will, I'm going to make it happen for you. So relationships are everything. But you can't develop that because we can't assume somebody wants us to be around them if we have nothing to offer them. You know, so I can't come to you, Connie, and say, hey, I want to be around you. I want to learn all this greatness and systems and this, that, and the third, if I don't have anything to offer. And just because I may be your relative or a long lost friend, or we went to school together, doesn't mean you owe me anything for you to share what you've invested hundreds of thousands of dollars to learn for free. So, but based upon our relationship, I can pick up the phone and say, hey, Connie, how do I do this? Or how can I figure this out and whatever. But I had to work on myself over 15 years in order for me to get to that point with you. And so I always tell people, you got to work on self. And I often say, if you can't change the people around you, change the people around you.
I'm gonna just go ahead and tip on out. All right, you have a good time. I hope you guys are getting this. If you can't change the people around you, change the people around you. Somebody put that in the comments for me. Because I feel like, and I've had these conversations for years, when you have these day ones, your friends that have been with you, and I'm not saying go dump all your friends, but I am saying that you have to make sure that you're investing and putting yourself in circles that you want to be in, of what your future self needs to be in, of what your business is trying to accomplish, that sits right in your peace and your spirit. The people that were the day ones they're not always going to be entrepreneurs. So if you need to start putting yourself in different circles, you literally have to start changing your circles. So what was your first step? And I know you said going to networking events and also being an introvert. What was that like for you? Were you just like, here's my business card, call me later if you can?
No, one of the things that I've learned from the book, How to Win Friends and Influence People, is that I wanted to just focus and get them to talk about themselves. Because the number one thing people love to do is to talk about themselves. And so I'm never the one to go and say, hey, my name is Will, and I think I'm great, and I'm a cancer. And like, I'm going to come up to you and say, hey, Connie, how you doing? I saw you presenting from the stage. Wow, I love what you've done. And I think it's incredible what you're doing and how you've helped me just change my mindset. But could you tell me more of, if I wanted to do business with you, what would that look like? You know, do I have to book a consultation? And then from there, like, I'm going to make that conversation all about you. And so that's the thing I always tell people, is that anytime you're trying to build a relationship, try to get to know them and stop trying to make it seem like, hey, this conversation is all about me. Like, no, nobody cares about us. You know what I'm saying? And that's why I often say, like, that's why I don't talk about myself. When I'm sitting with the client, I want to know about them, because that's what's going to help me to develop that relationship, whether it's a client relationship, whether it's a friend, or whatever. So that's really what I've done, and that's how I did it. And trust me, it was brutally uncomfortable. I mean, they probably saw me shaking and all type of things, but I knew it was something that I had to do, and I was just committed to the process. And that's the thing, is that I tell people, you just got to be committed to the process. Yeah, I probably got more people that turned me down who I was trying to develop a relationship with than people who were willing to, but I didn't give up. And that's the thing, is that, you know, because I'm not going to lose any sleep because we can't be friends or we can't do business. I'm just going to keep going, because in my mind, and again, I had to get to a certain point in my life with this mindset, is that that's your loss. You don't want to be my friend. That's your loss that you don't want to do business with me. You know, and I remember before I actually started my business in 2007, I met another gentleman in the credit space as I was kind of learning the industry, who I tried to go and work for him just so I can, quote unquote, intern. And he kind of sunned me and was like, no, I'm good. But that motivated me. And I said, you know what? I'm going to use this and say, I'm going to come back bigger, badder, stronger, and I'm going to come buy your company. Like, this is what I would tell myself. And he's no longer in business, unfortunately. But so I always tell myself, it's like, this is your loss. But I never share that. But again, that comes with a certain level of mental toughness. And that's where I often say, when you change your thinking, that's when you'll become successful. And success isn't, again, never about monetary. It's about a successful mindset, a successful walk, just a journey. And all of those things are what helped me get to that point to where, you know, I don't care about the result. I just care about the process.
I love that. I think people are afraid of the process. Why do you think people are afraid of, like Tiwa just said, we all have our sun moments. Why do you think people are afraid of those L's, like, or afraid of those sun, where you feel like you're getting sunned? Why are we afraid of the process and we just want the end goal?
So to be brutally honest, I think it's a couple of reasons. One, we're scared of the unknown. And then two, I really believe some of it is entitlement. Like, and I'm pretty sure you've dealt with this. A person will invest money with you in your business, and they will say, Connie, you have to make me successful because I paid money to you. And that's a level of entitlement, I think. And so sometimes, because we don't want to go through that process, or we feel that oh, okay, I'm not 100% sure if Connie can do it, then or can't help me get to that next level. And so that process can be scary. Oh, this is my last $5,000. I don't know how I'm going to eat after this. So, and then somebody just put in the chat, they're scared of failure. And I often talk about, I did a TEDx talk where I say the power of failure is the most powerful part of the journey. Because again, you learn what not to do. When Colonel Sanders was trying to sell his 11 secret herbs and spices, he didn't become successful until in his 70s. That's why the mascot for KFC is an old man. But that's because he learned 1,000 ways of what not to do. And he just kept going. And so once you can mentally overcome the fact of the failure, the fact of the unknown, because this is what I tell people, nobody knows you failed unless you tell them. You know what I'm saying? And so I could take a million L's, which I've done every single day, but nobody would know because I'm not going to share it. I'm going to make everything look like a win. If I trip and fall, you're going to think it's because I'm auditioning for a movie. Like, I'm going to make everything look like a win. And so that's just my mindset.
So I agree 100% with the fear, the pride, and everything that comes along with it. And it makes the journey a little bit harder when you're that nervous, because I've been that person, but I've never been scared of the failure. I've actually been scared of the success. Like, oh my God, this is going to be so great, which I know I'm kind of on the other spectrum. But when you look over your life and you say, man, I've learned so many things. I wish someone would have warned me about this one thing. What was the one L that you took that you wish somebody would have stepped in and be like, don't trip on this one. What's that one L for you?
Everybody who say they want it, don't want it. And I say that because I think when you're in a position where you genuinely care about helping people versus the dollar, you can't save everybody. And I think that's what any business or any entrepreneur that is usually, once you're doing it for once you find out that that's your passion, your mission really is to serve others. And I wish someone would have told me a long time ago, everybody don't want it. They'll tell you they want it, but they don't want it. They'll act like they want it, but they really don't. You know what I'm saying? And so I think it would have saved me more time and emotionally detaching for caring about people more than they care for themselves, or me wanting it for them more than they want it for themselves.
That is a tough lesson.
Very tough.
Because that works in business, that works in relationships, that works in any type of relationship that you have, is wanting something more than somebody else wants it. Because you see the greatness in them, you're excited, and you feel you can see this in them, but if they don't see it, then they can't achieve it.
Right. Connie, can you give me 1 second?
I sure can.
Outside. I gotta.
Yeah, no, you're fine. So while he's running out, I want you guys to make sure, and again, we're going to get to all of your questions. Make sure that all of your questions are going into the chat box. And while he's away, I want you to drop the name of your business and what services you provide into the chat box. That way we can go back. We go back and we watch all of these lives and we pull all of the information from everybody, and we try to make sure that we're purchasing and supporting every single business that we have on these lives. So again, while we're waiting, make sure that you put your business, your name, what service you provide really quickly into the chat room, so that way we can go back and support it. Also, make sure that you are following Will. He is at Mr. Will Roundtree. Roundtree, the spelling of his name is below. And also make sure that you're following me at Connie S. Falls. The S is for systems. And while we're waiting, I see that we have a few questions that are coming in. I promise that we're going to get to everybody's questions. But just make sure that we are putting all of your information into the chat so we can come back and make sure that you're supported. And one of the things that he talked about as far as making sure that the people are around your friendship portfolio, a great way to evaluate that is to look at your call list. Look at the last 10 people you talked to. And if y'all weren't doing nothing but gossiping, you need to evaluate those people that are on that list. What are they adding? What kind of value are they putting into your life? So one of the things I want to talk about, Will, is the word value, because that's something I feel like is new. It's a popular word right now, just like entrepreneurship is popular. But what does it really mean to add value to someone?
So, and I kind of touched on it earlier. like when I tell somebody I appreciate them, I'm not saying I appreciate you just because you may have supported my business or whatever. That's the value. Think about real estate. Real estate appreciates in value. So when I feel that someone adds value to me, that's the level of appreciation. And so it can be on many different levels. So for example, I value our relationship because you have not only just what you've done for me and my business, but I see what you've done for so many others. And that's residue to your lineage, your branch, and that's something that can live forever. And so the value is in the residual effects of the seeds that you planted. Nobody can take that away. And so I think that value is definitely something that's kind of like the new cool hip term. I think that once you truly value somebody, like, it's nothing that someone who I rock with can't get me to do, or I'll never put a dollar amount on it because I value that person. And so I often tell people, like, people say this all the time, and you've even told me or asked me, you said, Will, why do you give so much information away for free? And I see you do it because I value the people who have supported me, just like I know you do. And so because you putting that information out there, or us putting the information out there that quote unquote people spend tens of thousands of dollars for, that we do for free, we know the value will come back in other forms. It may not be necessarily monetary. It may come back in the form of an opportunity. You know, me putting more value into people may come back in a new relationship that may open the door that I've been trying to get in for the past 5 or 10 years. And so value can have so many different layers to it, but that's why I often say it starts with that, having that level of appreciation for others where you help increase one's value.
I love it. So let's transition. Hold on. Let me check these questions. I got y'all. All right, here we go. Will, do you tell your story in both books? And which should my 18-year-old read first? Hey, Iced Out Barber. I know he just left you yesterday.
Man. No, so my story is more so in my second book, Full-Time CEO. And my story is actually deeper. Like one day I'm going to write a book with my real story. You know what I'm saying? As far as which book your 18-year-old should read first, I'm going to say both. You know, I often ask people when they ask me which book should they get, I say, if you're walking down the street and it's a $50 on the ground and $100 on the ground, which one you going to pick up? I'm picking up both.
That was the best. That was the best. I'll give you credit when I use that one with somebody else. That you're absolutely right. You're gonna get both of them.
Pick up both. You know what I'm saying?
So let's talk about how you transitioned into credit. Yeah. Why was that such a big deal for you? Because I mean, I will admit I am definitely one of those kids. Like I told you before, I'm one of those kids that was in college and they were like, "You want a credit card?" I was like, "Yes." They're like, "Which one?" "Both of them." You just give it to me and I just get to swipe. Yay! And yeah, I tore everything up. So that's me. And I know most people are like that and they set us up for that type of failure. So tell me what got you into wanting to be able to help people?
So before moving to Vegas, again, I had another mentor and he said that, Will, eventually credit is going to become the new dollar. And I didn't know what he meant by that at the time. But when I moved to Vegas County, I quickly found out. You ever try renting an apartment with bad credit?
Yeah. Yeah.
Actually, 3 times the deposit. I'm talking about I was trying to rent a Roach Motel and the deposit was more than if I went to try to go buy a house. And I'm like, y'all don't even have air conditioning in here. And it's 110 degrees outside. And so then I remember trying to buy a vehicle. And I didn't really understand why having good credit when you're buying a vehicle makes sense until I looked at my agreement and saw my interest rate was 29%. And I bought a $9,000 vehicle and my payment was $400. And I'm like, that's the scam. you know, and so from that point, I said, I got to do better, because definition of insanity is doing the same thing over, expecting different results. And I didn't want to go the rest of my life paying double and triple for everything. And so, so the light bulb went off. Remembering my mentor told me in 2003, remember I moved to Vegas in 2005. So it took me 2 years to get that aha moment. And so this was around the time when Google and YouTube were not as popular. So I actually had to do some work. So I would go to the library. I remember going to an internet cafe across from UNLV campus, and I would pay $5 to get on the internet, just so I can, you know, try to research and do whatever I can and learn about credit. And then I remember just hearing the book by Robert Kiyosaki, which, you know, that's definitely not a plug for him, but just saying that, talking about other people's money. And I kept just hearing the word leverage, 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 but I knew you couldn't get to leverage without having great credit. So I just really focused on trying to fix my own first. And I had anything negative that you could think of on my credit. I had 2 repos. I had a bunch of medical bills. I probably owe every credit card company that was out back then. And so, I mean, I was truly a product of my own product. And once I was able to fix my credit, and it took me 2 years, I started to see the benefits of it. Oh, I can buy a vehicle with no money down. Oh, wow. Oh, I can move into this apartment with no money down. And that was so foreign to me. And so I got so excited. I just wanted to share it with as many people. And obviously, I told all my friends, all my family, and guess how many of them wanted to go on this train with me?
How many?
None. So I just said, you know what? Well, somebody's going to hear this because I'm excited. And so, but real talk, like I just got so excited. And then I started asking myself, why are they not teaching us this? Like, why is there no life skills course in high school? Why is there no life skills course in college? Like, I flunked algebra my first year. I've yet to have used it. You know, I still have not had to learn. I still have not had to dissect a frog since I've graduated high school. You know, but I need to know about credit. I needed to know about taxes. I needed to know how to be a real adult in society. And so I was like, man, we're not learning these things. So I said, you know what? I can't keep complaining about the problem if I'm not going to come up with a solution. So I said, I'll be the solution. And whether one person or a million people hear me, I'm going to share this story, because guess what? I was promoting things for free. If I saw a good movie, I was telling everybody. They didn't send me a check for that. You know what I'm saying? If it was a great restaurant I liked, I was telling a million people, hey, you got to go check out so-and-so. They didn't send me a voucher for 25% off. So I said, you know what? I might as well be a spokesman for myself. And I'm going to share this credit. And again, I never got into it to be a credit repair person. I got into it really just to tell people, look, we need to have home ownership, but that starts with your credit. And when we own things, that's where true wealth starts to create or starts to build. And when I'm saying wealth, I'm never talking about millions, but if you have value in your home that's going to appreciate, and your house has $100,000 in equity, guess what? I can always tap into that $100,000, but I can't do any of that without getting my credit in position. And so just learning more and more why credit was so important, and how bad credit affects your insurance rates, how bad credit impacts just your confidence. Like, no disrespect, but I do feel that our credit scores dictate our moods sometimes. Because when you have great credit, you're a lot more confident, especially when you don't have access to liquid cash. And I know people who, during this whole pandemic, reached out and said, Will, thank you for helping me get positioned. Because of my great credit, I was able to sustain during these times. And so it has such a residual impact on everything that we do. And that's why I get so passionate about credit, and why, you know, again, kind of going back, all of those aha moments and why it made sense. Plus, Connie, I didn't see anybody who looked like me that was talking about credit that was relatable. You know what I'm saying? They were using all these big words. Some I can't even pronounce. You know what I'm saying? But I wanted to see somebody that looked like me that can disseminate and articulate this information in a way that we can digest it. You know what I'm saying? So because we digest things a little bit differently than probably some of our counterparts. And so I wanted to be that voice.
And I think it's important, especially when you're in spaces like we are. So you don't see a bunch of Black folks running around talking about systems. You don't see us running. I mean, now people are talking about credit more than they used to, but we didn't have these faces because we're in the same age group. So we didn't have these types of faces to look at, to teach us. Why do you think that they don't teach this in high school? Why don't they teach this in college? I want the truth.
Because we would take over this shit. Like, it's the information. So I was on a call yesterday with, I always tell people there's levels in this wealth journey. And I was on a call yesterday that blew my mind that talked about how some of the most wealthy people pay little to no taxes. But the information, to get access to that level of information, you either got to be financially able to get into that realm, or you got to have relationships. Now, I said all that to say why they don't teach us credit is because the information is powerful. Like I truly believe that a lot of the things that they teach us in these systems of education dumbs us down, because when we know that if you can master the credit and the tax game, you will always be able to get access to any opportunity. And so now imagine this, the powers in the information, and there's layers to this. Just think about it like this. 400 plus years ago, it was illegal for us to know how to read. So why would they give us access to much more powerful information, the credit and the tax strategies, to help us to actually expedite getting past this 400-year deficit that we're in from an information standpoint? And so this is why I tell people credit is bigger than just buying a house and a car and getting some credit cards to go tear them all down. Like, when you truly understand that game, the whole world is built on credit. And that's really what I'm trying to get people to understand. And when you understand the credit game, which is why on the front of my book, I have a chess piece, Credit is King, because it really is a game. It's all about strategy. And when you know how to move in that strategy, in that system, in that setting, I'm telling you, like, so many doors can open up. And so they don't teach us this because they already know. We come from a mindset of survival. Like, we took the worst part of the pig and made it a delicacy called chitlins. So could you imagine what we could do if we really were taught about credit at the age of 10 and where you would be at the age of 18? We wouldn't even be in colleges, just keeping it real, because we would be out here starting businesses like we were doing back during the Black Wall Street days. Like, the word career was not meant for us. Like, that is actually a fairly relatively new term. We were entrepreneurs. And that's why I get so passionate about it. But that's why they don't want to teach us, because it dumbs us down. Because now, guess what? You have to go and get that job for $15 an hour. And one of the things that I learned, and again, no disrespect to anybody making that, that's just the number that stuck out, because that's how much they used to pay me. The job pays you just enough so you don't quit, and you do just enough work so you don't get fired. And so understanding that, like, if you knew your capability of what you could do with the information with this thing called credit, the next time your boss piss you off, you wouldn't care. So you're like, you know what? I'm going to go bet on myself. I already got 3 ideas. I know I can go to the bank and get a line of credit for $10,000 to start my company. I got the support. I got the mindset. I got the hustle. Like, we wouldn't have to depend on a system that keeps us stuck mentally and financially. So that's why credit is important. It's deeper than just trying to buy a house, a car, and get a credit card. These are the type of conversations I have with my friends. So yeah, we'll be on the phone for like 3 hours talking about this type of stuff.
And that's your friendship portfolio. That's why these people, I was on the phone with Brandon earlier, and I was like, bro, you are so brilliant. But I'm blessed, just like you are, to be able to have these conversations. But that's why I wanted to take our conversations that we have on the phone and make sure that it's accessible for people, all people, to be able to hear and understand that there's a bigger play out here in this world than just what's going on in the space that you live in. So hold on, let's get a couple of questions in. As a veteran, how should I approach getting business credit? Is it better to get a loan or a card?
So I always say I like credit cards better than loans, and this is why. If you're a new business owner and you get a loan, let's say for $10,000, you have to start servicing that debt right away. Or you may not have a viable product. You may start a business that doesn't make any money. Trust me, I've started several, but you got to service that debt. Now, let's just even say the business goes well, you pay the $10,000 back. Now, guess what? You don't have any more money, because you typically don't double your money in business. If you get a 3 to 7% return, that's considered great. But if I have a line of credit for $10,000, I use it, I pay it back, guess what? I have $10,000 again. And so it's really the power of revolving credit. So I always like having revolving credit cards, business lines of credit over a loan. Now, it's a whole nother level where you talk about hedging your money, where you get credit cards and loans, but we have to say that for another podcast.
Got it. All right, we're going to take a couple more. How long should you be an authorized user on someone's high limit credit card?
So you want to be on there long enough to help you leverage your credit to be in position so now you can go and apply for credit. Now, if the FICO 10 scoring model gets implemented, authorized users will become obsolete. So I tell people, if you're on there now, like, you got to act now and go out there and do whatever it is you're trying to do to leverage that information on that short period of time, because we don't know if they're going to use the FICO 10 scoring model. But always act as if something is over today. Like, and that's another thing. Like, we as individuals, we have to start acting with a level of high urgency. Like, I told myself, look, I'm crunching noodles every day. So I need to do whatever it is I have to do now to get out of this situation. And so we have to start acting with a high level of urgency.
High level of urgency. Everybody put that in the comments. High level of urgency. We cannot just sit around on our ideas anymore. We cannot just sit around waiting. No one is going to save us. That $1,200 check is gone. We have to start acting at a high level of urgency. I love that. Will, tell us what you have going on and how people can support your business.
Absolutely. So I have my 30-day do-it-yourself credit repair challenge, which is a 30-day course that teaches people just the ABCs and everything they need to know about credit. Even teaches you how to dispute your credit. It's a 30-day module. So if you start today, you go 30 days from there, and you have lifetime access to it. And it's only $97. I mean, I'm pretty much giving it away. My software cost is that much, but I wanted to be able to give people value, because I appreciate them. Of course, I have my books, Credit is King and Full-Time CEO. I teach a virtual course at West Virginia State University, where I've been teaching them about entrepreneurship and credit and different things like that. Due to the pandemic, I really just been focusing on getting my systems together with the help of the genius and brilliant Connie. S standing for systems.
Look at you, yes.
Pay attention. And been really focusing on just with my one-on-one coaching clients. Been looking at a couple. I'm launching a course within the next week or so, showing people how to make money in the automotive industry. Starting a luxury car rental line and renting them out, starting a car dealership, how to flip cars with no money. And so it's going to be an actual course that I'm putting out. And then also working on my full-time CEO brand. As you see the hat. And when I say full-time CEO, it doesn't mean someone who works for themselves full-time. Full-time CEO is a mindset. And so just been working on that brand, and I got a lot of dope things that I have in the works, and I'm ready to get back on the road and start educating again. So and because I wasn't able to do that, I started remodeling my home, and that's taken a lot of time and energy, and so that's why I have to run. I got my contractors, and I mean, yeah, it's a lot going on. It's a lot going on.
But it is a blessing, and I am very, very grateful to have you on today. Being able to see people that look like us, that are excelling in spaces that we never had access to before, is absolutely phenomenal to me. So I wanted to make sure that I had you on so that way we can share this information with the people. Again, your humility is amazing, and I'm just grateful to have you as a friend, as a client, as somebody that I'm able to pick up the phone and call. And you guys, make sure that you grab this course. It's $97. Like, you're not going to get the amount of information that he's giving out, because if he would have asked me first before he put it out, I wouldn't have told him $97, but we're not going to get on into that in this call. But again, Will, I thank you so much. For those of you guys that are looking for him, please make sure to visit his page. It is Mr. Will Roundtree. Don't forget the Mr. Just like you don't forget the S for systems. All right, we'll talk to you later. And this has been another awesome episode of Business and BS. Today, the business stood for business strategies and some of that BS that happens in business. All right, y'all. Love you. Bye.